All right. So you hear that car? It's my son,
Yeah.
but
Is it really?
he must have the keys. Um, okay. So all right. So we're doing a first podcast episode conversation together. Melissa, thank you for coming on
Thank
and
you.
chatting with me. Um, so why don't we do some intros? Why don't
Sure.
you if you want to start?
Well, my name is Melissa Bello. I live in Florida. Um, I've been in real estate. Well, I got my license the first time in 2006, and then I went through the crisis back in 2008, 9. I went through all the ups and downs, the foreclosures, the REOs, then moving people into rentals, and after that, there was really not much market to work with. So I kind of like jumped into property management for the last 10, 12 years. Yeah, and that's what I've been doing. I've been also always like interested in like investing in my own. So I have a couple of properties. I flipped two in my life very slowly. And then, I have one rental now and I have the one I live. But I'm looking to buy more subject twos and understand more of that process. Now I just got into the Gator, which I think is very interesting, and it works hand in hand with the subject too. Now, because usually what is the biggest problem, right? People say like, okay, like why am I not buying more properties? Why are we not doing more deals? Because we don't have money. Everybody says like, oh, where is the money? Where are we going to find the money? So that was very like interesting. I've been like following Pace for maybe like a year and a half, and I was going to just jump into the subject too. And as soon as I saw his videos on the Gator, that really like caught my eye, because I was like thinking like, okay, I understand some of the real estate part. I got it since I've been in real estate for a while now, but the lending was like very very interesting to me to learn. So yeah, that's
Mhm.
how I got into the Gator.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. I want to learn more about that on that side too, because I know we've talked about it before. We haven't really dove in to some of the stuff that you're learning and going through too. Cool. So Bobby Souza, I also live in Florida, not too far from you, and in South Florida, and born and raised here in South Florida. And I focus on two markets. It's down here in South Florida, and also Central Florida, and more specifically near Disney. So own a short-term rental co-hosting or management company, and we have 6 properties right now. 3 are in Four Corners, which is like Kissimmee and Davenport near Disney, and then the other 3 are down here in South Florida in like the Fort Lauderdale area. And so I've been I've joined the Sub Two community maybe about like 5 months ago or 4 months ago, and joined it because ultimately we are co-hosting for other owners right now, but the goal is to purchase our own. Me and my wife Kristen, to get our own, so that we can then run that through our management company. And all the underwriting and things that I've done over the last like year or two for realtors and for properties of our own, it's very hard to find deals that makes sense in what we're looking for in terms of short-term renting, with the amount of time it takes and effort that you need to build that machine up to own a short-term rental. Like, you really want to look at like 15% to 20% cash on cash return, and that's not happening with the interest rates that are today. So that's how I got into the creative route or realm, and then landed into sub two community, and have learned a ton since then. And yeah, and going to all the real estate meetups, which is how I met you. Um, and and it's been great so far, meeting a ton of like-minded people, and really learning as a real estate investor, not only like the short-term rental management company and really building that and continuing to build that, but focused on also becoming more savvy and ultimately like a real estate investor uh, myself.
Yeah, no, I agree, because it's kind of like a challenge when you first start too. And what Pace always says is like, it's more than network, and it's more of the community, it's more of like who do you know and how you meet people. Because when I first started with the Gator, I was just watching the videos, and I was not really networking with anyone. So I was like, this is, I'm learning. I think I'm learning, but I'm really wasn't really learning as much because I was not using it. And I learned by putting things into practice. So I understand more when I speak with people, when I learn from other people, when I'm like in action. And I
Mhm.
wasn't really in action, so I wasn't really like grasping the concepts as well. So I
Yeah.
started like networking and like talking to people, and then I really like understand how everything like gets together into the deal, like the subject to with the money indicator, the private money lenders, like all these other pieces that are able, to put together. Like I didn't really like think about it until I started like networking and going
Yeah.
to the meetups and everything. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know, right? And it's like the biggest thing has been the networking, like connecting with, connecting with you, but also being able to help connect you with other people that I meet. Because ultimately it plays like hand in hand, like the Gator community and Sub 2 community definitely have a lot of synergy there, like of the work that they can do. And so I'm super excited about what I'm learning right now. And the focus is twofold. Like again, the short term rental company, but really trying to remove me and my business partner remove ourselves from the day to day. And we just hired an assistant, so we're onboarding them and going, built out all of our documentation and created videos, how tos, and all that. We're onboarding this person that they can handle a lot of the day to day, and then allow us to get more properties, but then also focus on the investing side of things and get our own. So it's fun. It's been a fun, like uh, fun journey so far.
Yeah.
But just learning a ton.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm also like I said, I've been in property management for the last 10 years. So I'm very familiar with like doing, the buildings and the long-term rentals and that kind of thing. I also like manage associations, which are like owners. So I'm very familiar with the customer service. And then now I'm doing like office buildings. So that's a lot of like the square footage and the rentals by square footage. And all that is very interesting because eventually I would like to like get into multifamily. Like that's the ultimate goal, right? So
Yeah.
maybe buy multifamily, and if I was able to manage it, I really enjoy managing. So like another thing, like if I can add value to anyone, maybe I can help with like managing or like going through budgets or that kind of thing, which I actually enjoyed.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, there's something for everybody. It's good that you know you need people that enjoy that stuff. Someone's got to be able to do that. What is I guess what are so are you dealing directly with tenants on the management side, or are you in the back end making sure vendors talking with, what
Well, I do on the office buildings. Yeah, I do both. I have two office
okay,
buildings in Palm Beach Gardens, and I do the tenant relationships, and I also do the vendors, the build outs, like the project management. Yeah, pretty much everything. Like
nice.
checking the contracts and renewing contracts, budgets, everything. And I
Yeah.
also have an HOA in Vero Beach, which it's a little bit different of the politics, more so because it's HOAs is more emotional for them as owners, so it gets a little bit more complicated to deal with in a personal level.
Yes.
But
I'm in a Facebook group that's my community. And so I understand, like I see all
that's
the things being posted in there. Yes, lots of drama. It's actually really entertaining to
yeah.
just sit back and read. I'm like, oh, it's really good. Um,
Yeah, some of the
but
things are pity. Like it's not really that important, but they make it a wow deal. Like it's the end of the world. Oh, this is my investment, and this is my property, and we want the best for our investment. It's like, yeah, I understand, but you don't have to be so dramatic or intense.
yeah, oh yeah. There's been so many different things around, like people posting their Ring camera videos of like a little kid like riding on their driveway with their bike, like just passing by and like riding up their driveway and down, and is
Yeah,
like, can you stop having, it's like, really, come
yeah.
on, you don't want
You're
it's
gonna put signs
it's
all over your
innocent,
property
yeah,
saying
right,
pass by
that,
here,
yeah,
pass by the
yep,
other side. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
crazy.
it's funny, yeah, it's people, it's good though. It's
Yeah.
a lot of the crazy, I mean, on the short term side too, it's a lot of it is there's a lot of you never run out of stories to tell when with the amount of the different types of guests that you deal with and the different questions and experiences that you had. I've had like scary ones so far, and then I've had ones that you're just like, shaking your head about. Just you deal with all types of people, but it's good. You got to love hospitality and really helping make that's why I liked it when I heard about this a year ago, like, or over a year ago. But when short-term renting like really dove in and just did everything I could do to learn and surround myself by other good operators throughout the country. Like I'm part of a group as well of short-term operators, and I'm learning a ton from them. And when I really went in, I'm like, man, I love one. I ultimately the goal is to have our own properties throughout the United States that we can stay at when we want to for vacation, and when we're not there, we just run it as a short-term rental. And I always love the idea of like hospitality and creating like a good experience for guests when they come. Like I think it's pretty cool. But we like to deal in the luxury space as well, right? Which those haven't been hurting in the um, Airbnb space. Like a lot of people are saying Airbnb's going through some rough patches, and it is for people that aren't great operators. It's
Right.
starting to kind of show them, but like luxury properties are still doing well. And then a lot of the other properties that are like top 90th percentile are still doing well. Um,
Good. Yeah. That's very
but
nice.
yeah,
Yeah, because I guess some people are still traveling, some people are still like, they have their income that is not dependable on the interest rates or the economy or any of that. So
yeah,
you still have your clientele. Yeah,
yep,
it's
right.
good.
Yeah. Cool. So any particular challenges or mistakes or lessons learned from like the journey so far, either on the gator lending side or um, I guess real estate side in general?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to share because um not too long ago, like maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I was trying to buy a duplex, and I was going to do it with the DSCR loans. And I didn't realize that when they do that, they can only, or at least the one that I got at that particular point, they only, because the DSCR loan is only for like investment properties when you're going to have it rented, right? So they have to do the comparables to see how much is the property going to produce, because they don't really like, they don't qualify it on you as a person, but they qualify the loan with the property and with the income that the property will produce. So
Hmm.
what I was like, putting the numbers on the short-term rental, and I was going to be totally fine and cash flowing great. But then when they were underwriting my property, they were saying that they were only doing it in the long term. So in the long term, it barely like kind of hit, it was like breaking even. And I think they needed like a 20% to be on top of. And yeah, it was interesting because I didn't know that they could do that. Like if I tell you what is my strategy, I thought they would just take it from me and then do the comparables on the strategy that I'm going to be using,
Right.
not on just the long term. But yeah, I
Right.
found that that's why I couldn't buy that property, because they were only like underwriting it on the long term. So that was a lesson learned.
Yeah.
Maybe like, yeah, because then after that I heard that there's other lenders that do it with the short-term rental. I At that point I thought that it was the only way to do it was with the long term, but now I found that there's other lenders that actually do that with the short-term rental. So it's
Yep.
it's it's a live and learn, and meeting new lenders and going through shopping it, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So there is there's a short-term rental conference every year, and there's been two so far, and they've been in Nashville, and the next one is in Nashville again. But they always that's how I learned from those conferences, where I met lenders that are specific, that understand the short-term rental space. So
Mm.
people like the lender, thelender.com, the lender, and then there's like Easy Street Capital. There's a couple companies out there that they understand the short-term rental space. They know it. They'll use AirDNA to do their comps, to do their projections as well. And so long as, I mean, long term, 100% always should be part of the underwriting, to just see if you would if all else
Yeah.
fails,
Yeah.
could you
Worst
at
case.
least, right? Which in your case it would have, but if you see the gain of that in the short term space, I think people that don't understand that, uh, naturally they get worried when they read articles that are just like Airbnb is having issues, and it's like they got to protect themselves. So I get it, but yeah, there are some good lenders out there, that that'll do that, and we almost went that the DSCR route, and but then we were in between that and the second home loan, and then like interest rates kept going up, and it's hard to find a property down here in South Florida that
Yeah.
now Kissimmee, like Orlando area, you're starting to see a lot of good. I'm starting to see more good deals. It's just got to be done creatively still. Like the price is coming down, but interest rates still too high. So
Yeah,
cool.
I'm really looking right now for something in like the West Palm or Palm Beach Gardens area because that's where I work and I need to like be closer to work. At least for the next, the plan is to be there for another year, year and a half, and then be on my own. But in the meantime, the drive is taking so long, which is time that I could be using with like learning, going to like meetups, meeting new people, doing more podcasts, and
Hmm.
other things that could definitely help.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anybody knows on a property subject to or seller finance that it's in from West Palm to maybe Jupiter, I'm buying.
Yeah. Awesome. Is there any particular buying criteria that you're looking for, or things that you're not interested in that
Definitely
area?
not a condo. Definitely not a condo. It could be an HOA with no more than $200-300 a month. Like I would not pay any more than that. Preferably no HOA, but since those areas are a little rough, sometimes you have to be in some kind of an HOA.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I would prefer like 3 bedrooms and preferably no HOA.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. I like that area a lot too. I really like West Palm. Just, I mean, downtown. Like I've actually done
There's
like
like
multiple.
pockets of areas like super nice, and then next door is horrible, and then super nice, and then it's horrible. It's like it's
Yeah.
hit and miss, really.
Yeah.
Because even
You
when you
see,
see the address, you're like, oh, I know the place close to that, but then 3 houses down, it's like, oh no.
yeah, it's funny. You see that all out east. So Delray, like really bad, then really nice,
Yeah,
and Pompano Beach, really
true.
bad, and then it gets nice. Fort Lauderdale has those pockets too. It's especially when you go east of 95, it's just like where you have those differences, and yeah, it's. But I've had multiple staycations in West Palm Beach. I love that area. Just but downtown, like it's got to be in
Yeah.
that
I
pocket.
actually
So,
used to live in a high rise downtown for like a year
oh,
because I
nice.
just I just wanted to be like, I don't want to have a car. I just want to like be downtown, and it was
Yep.
expensive. It was like, something I wanted to do. And I was like
Yes.
walking distance to everything. I was right in Clematis. It was awesome.
That's
It was a
that's
nice
so cool. That's what
thing.
we wanted to do. We almost moved to Chicago. Chris and I almost moved, because we ended up going there on a vacation that was not, and the Cubs ended up winning the World Series that week. It happened like so it was like the height of Chicago, and everything was amazing, and it was like October, so it was beautiful. And but we didn't move. We ended up getting pregnant, and so we didn't. We ended up staying here, families here, and everything like that. But probably good thing because people are like, yeah, it's nice now. Like, come during the winter and see if you want to stay here in Chicago. It's supposed to
Yeah,
be
it
like
must be
so
a
cold,
challenge.
but
Yeah, I
yeah,
wouldn't
we
know
wanted to be in the city.
myself. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not I don't even know what to do myself in the winter. Like I wouldn't know what to
yeah,
do with my car. My car is like under snow. I wouldn't know. Actually, one time I went to Pennsylvania and I rented a car, and I woke up and the car was like full of snow, and I was like, "What do I do?" It's like, "Oh, all cars have the scraper. They all come with it." I was like,
yep,
"Really?" It was right in my
yeah,
trunk. I had no idea what it was for.
yes,
I
yep.
never used one of those before.
Yes, I know. I know. Same thing happened to me in Colorado.
Yeah.
It's like all like it's yeah, it's hilarious, man. It's
Yeah,
a
it's funny. They're so
different
used to
way.
it. They totally understand what you're supposed to do. It's like a normal thing. It's like it's the same as us with the hurricanes. People freak out and
Yeah.
we're like, well, yeah, it's a hurricane. We know.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
not.
hurt. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
I know.
no big
Yeah.
deal. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Um all right. So I guess you know, what do you have working, like, what are you working on right now? Anything in particular? Um, any type of training or learning or any deals, like anything you're working on right now?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple of like PML deals right now that are like 60 days. I actually just got into it this week. This week, $30,000 for 60 days, and then I'm working on a second one for another $20,000. So yeah, we're working on those two deals. I think is really cool, but for some reason it came to me the opportunity to do this PMLs, but I would like to also do EMDs, and I haven't done an EMD yet. Yeah, even the PMLs is very interesting because the paperwork that you start learning and the JV agreements, and then you start seeing the promissory notes and what is supposed to be in it or not. Because then I had another person that offered me to do another lend PML for like 10,000. But when I saw his paperwork was not the same as what we use, so I was kind of like afraid of like, oh, I don't want to get into it with somebody that because the people that I'm working with is actually like people from Pace's group, but this guy
Yeah.
wasn't. So I was
Oh,
trying to
okay.
compare and look at the paperwork, and I realized there are differences, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe either we negotiate it or let me learn a little bit more to tell you what I want on the paperwork before we get into that kind of deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting things though, because I wouldn't catch that if I didn't, if I was not going into this group, I wouldn't
Yes.
be able to know if
Yeah.
that was so.
Oh, yes. And so I'm really curious because we haven't dove into this before in the past in our conversations, but how can you just walk through like the basics of how that happens and then what that means when you're saying like, you're doing that PML for someone, like so what exactly in the basic level of what that means when you're doing that for somebody?
So a PML is private money lending, right? So I'm lending my own money. So I'm giving my $30,000, and the terms is 60 days with 20% after the 60 days. It's not simple interest, so it's not the monthly; is a one-time return.
Mhm. Okay. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. And how do you finding people? Like, do you have to market yourself constantly, or is there like how do you find the people that know
And
you?
yeah, it was kind of interesting. There's a ladies group that I go on Mondays,
Nice.
and it's all like women. And from that group, I met this girl, Giselle, and then she was talking about deals that she was doing with somebody else, and I was like, oh, I'm interested. Next time you have one, I'm interested in doing one. And then she reached out to me, and then we started talking. And then another girl from this group was also working, and then with them, and then there's a bunch of like girls now that were working together on these deals. Yeah. and
Yes,
and there's like
awesome.
a source, there's like this investor that he's buying portfolios, so he's really like buying a lot of property, so he's in need of money constantly to for this
Yeah.
gap funding.
Oh, true.
And
Okay.
then as soon as he buys them, he refinances them, or he does a DSCR loan on those, and then he gives the money back in 60 days.
Oh, all right. Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, do they just pull together a bunch of PMLs
Yeah.
together in that when you're doing those big deals? Ah,
Yeah, we did like I think it was we did an actual operating agreement on a new LLC. So we did one LLC with like it was like 6 or 7 people. So 6, 7 LLCs on it listed, and then everybody with like 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, and then we make I think it was like 300,000 or something that we made. So from
that's
then,
amazing.
yeah, it was actually pretty interesting to see how that works because the other
Yes.
deal that I was working with is not an operating agreement. It's just the joint venture with the promissory note. Now this promissory note goes to our LLC, so we have one LLC for all of us for the 300,000, and the other deal is just them with me. So it's
Huh.
directly to me. In this case, is to us as a group. Yeah,
Okay.
it's different, but it's very interesting.
Yeah. No, I'm super intrigued because I think this is the biggest thing when my
Yeah.
head wraps around is how do you find the money for this stuff? Like, yeah, how do you leverage that? Because like I was been telling you too, like there's been the multifamilies. The reason why that I got into the sub two community was a multifamily deal that I loved, and it's way overpriced, and the cap rate was way too low. Like it overpriced, but it's been on the market for like nearly 300 days. Not and
Get
that
it.
they're tired landlords. They want to retire. And so it's like, man, but then I was like, let's say they agreed to my terms, then I'd be like, okay, how do I find the
What?
money for
Yeah.
this, $3 million deal? How do you come up with that? So that's always, but that's a bridge I'm gonna cross and want to learn. So that's interesting that you got to sit in that seat and learn about that. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
I like
definitely.
that.
And yeah, it'll be awesome to buy a multifamily, even if it's a small one, first for like $3, $4 million, and then you get into something bigger. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely is something that I'm very interesting.
Yeah. And my last question to that real quick is the EMD part. So you want to get into that. Can you explain that a little bit more?
So the EMDs are usually for wholesalers that are like in between different contracts. So when a wholesaler comes to you, they do a contract and they have to put a escrow deposit, but they're usually in 3 or 4 contracts all at the same time. So they're trying to, like, secure a few contracts at a time. So if they do, sometimes they don't have the two $2,000-3,000 here, so it adds up to like maybe $20,000. But if when they run out of the money, then I can come in and do like $2,000, $3,000 for that EMD for the whatever 20 days, 30 days, or maybe 15 days, depending on from the day that they got the contract until the day that is closed. There's always like a probationary period or like a trial period or whatever when you can still back out. But then after the money goes hard, then you pretty much have to go through the entire like transaction.
Yeah.
So that's
Um,
it. And but you can get a bigger return because it's a more urgent. And the wholesalers usually they make like $10,000 out of that. If you lend them two and then you ask for two back, then you make double your money and they still make eight. So it's still like a good deal for everyone.
I like that a lot. I have someone in mind that I'm going to connect you with now because they're actively doing a lot of like like I was telling you before, 4 to 8 deals a month, and
Mm,
I think that's a great uh, opportunity. So I'm going to definitely, like, once we're done, I'm going to connect you with him because I think you might be able to get some work there on that. That's cool. Awesome. Thanks
yeah,
for
that's
sharing
awesome.
that.
Great.
Cool.
So tell me something about the subject. So you've been in that for like 5 months, you say?
Yeah. Yeah. 5 months. Yep.
And then you're starting to make the phone calls now? Tell me something about your.
Yeah. 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 It's been it's been fun. So I'm calling both sellers and agents. So on the sellers, I'm calling, like, expired listings, and they don't answer the phone much. I got one person to answer the phone, and they were like, the property's not available anymore, and that was it. And but now it's just like following up with the people that didn't answer. A lot of them have disconnected numbers. Like it's a lot harder to get a hold of them. Uh, but conceptually, it should be better in terms of their expired listings. They should have sold and they didn't sell, and here's the solution, right? Subject to. So waiting to get a hold of sellers there. Again, I just started this week really heavily calling. Um, but on the agent side, right, like they're more susceptible to, they're picking up, and you can be more direct with them and to the point. And a lot of the times, I've heard this now. I've called over the last 2 days. I probably have called maybe like 15 or so agents, and I've gotten four that have said like the same thing, where uh they're like, a lot of people have been calling me about subject to, my sellers aren't interested, they just want all their money out, like they just want their money out, they don't want to be tied to the mortgage, they just want that. And I'll ask them, like, well, why is that? Do you think they fully understand it? Like, do you kind of get subject to, do you understand it? And they're like, yeah, they're not interested. I'm telling you, they're not. And I'm like, okay, like, it's a tool. Like, listen, we can get the deal done, we can actually literally send an offer. Sometimes the agents, they want to know, are they going to get commission, and they want to know, uh like, mainly that too. But whether or not they did float it to the seller or not, they're supposed to. But by chance they just mentioned it, and who knows how they're delivering it. And so that's been interesting, but it's nice to actually be able to call and someone's pick up so I can actually talk with them. Sellers are just, it's been hard to get a hold of
Really,
directly. Yeah. So
I
we
would
ended up
think
sending,
I
yeah,
would
go
think
ahead.
it would be easier to talk to sellers than to talk to the realtors, because the realtors are like, oh, I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. I mean, I talk as a
Yeah.
realtor because I have the experience of how
Yeah.
realtors think that they
Yeah.
know what I'm doing, you know. But
Yeah.
they usually don't. They usually really don't, because that they don't teach them that in school. I mean,
Yep.
barely when you're doing deals, you do that kind of like financing. So it's
Yeah.
not a really common thing, but they feel like, oh, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm sure that's kind of
Right.
like the attitude. If you go directly to the sellers are more open to like hear, oh, really? That's what that option? I didn't know about that option. My realtor never told me about that option. Like you would
Yep.
think if they don't answer the phone, you can't even tell them that.
That was the hard, yeah, like I just want, I'm waiting to get a hold of a seller in, I have some follow-ups and everything to do as well, just to keep calling. But it's been mostly, like I said, out of I had 15 sellers to call. I've actually gotten on the phone with one of them. And
Oh,
and it's so, and I know it's the numbers game, you got to keep calling too, but it's that's the hard part. But when I get on with them, I feel, to your point, I think it's going to be an easier conversation, or just more of a, I can now actually connect with the person. Whereas the agents, right, they just want to tell me what you got to tell me. Don't beat around the bush. Just tell me it. Let's move on. And
yeah.
then they are more protected, like, for whatever reason, and they get defensive when sometimes they don't understand things.
Mm.
Like I said, so what's cool is, yesterday I called an agent. It was an expired listing. So I called the seller. Seller's like, hey, we have a new agent. We already signed, but it's not on the MLS yet. So I called the new agent, and I told her about it. And she's like, isn't that mortgage fraud? And I was like, no. I was like, no, it's actually subject to, is legal, completely legal. It's actually, even you'll see it on closing statements and the HUD statements. Like, you'll actually see lines in there from the government official, like, documentation, subject to. The thing with mortgages is that um, they have the right to call the due on sale clause, right? And they can kind of fast forward the notes, and make you pay that off if they notice that the deed, the name on the deed is changed, and no longer matches, like, the loan, the name on the loan. It's rare it happens, and if it happens, there are ways around it, but it's not fraud. It's by no means that. So it's just interesting, the amount of knowledge that you have, and or
Yeah.
people have about it, and breaking down that barrier and staying on the phone long enough, and go past, like, the anger that you kind of hear with some of the sellers about, or because they're getting called, not sellers, agents, because they're getting called, I guess, about this all the time. And so anyways, it's a good experience though. So we submitted an offer for one yesterday. That was it. The agent's like, okay, send me an offer. And I was like, all
Uh,
right, cool. So we'll see how that one goes. um and yeah, just keep on calling
yeah, I
people.
was thinking of like doing the door knocking like for pre foreclosures. I thought that would be very interesting too, just to like, and that's really helpful. I mean, even when they don't think so, it's like, yeah, we're here to really help you, because
Yeah.
otherwise, if when you go to the foreclosure, it's going to be way worse. You're not going to be able
Yes.
to move anywhere. You're going to have an eviction. You're going to have, all these issues in your credit. I mean, you're not going to be able to be allowed anywhere. So if we
Hmm.
if we can like keep your credit good, and then we can take the payments, and you can go somewhere else, and eventually you can buy another house, and you're not going to be in that bad situation. So it really is a help, but they sometimes they don't understand that, and they don't see it as a help.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So that, I think that's actually a really good point. If you go in there with that intention, constantly remind, like, you are here to help someone, like, it should be coming off in that conversation as such. It's not like, what's in it for me. It's literally a tool. Of course, it benefits as the buyer, because, as an investment, it makes sense. And but it really benefits the seller. And
Yeah, because they don't ruin their lives. I mean, a
yeah.
foreclosure can ruin their lives for 7 years. and
Right.
then just to recover from something like that, it takes a long time. So if
Yep.
they don't have to recover from something like that, and they can take a pause, if you will, by, like, letting somebody else take care of these payments, they take a pause, they can rebump their lives, and then move on, and maybe they can buy a different property or something else. At least
Yeah.
they can do it faster.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So cool. All right. Well, I guess what we can do is talk about really future plans, goals. Like what's kind of. I know you mentioned that you want to get to that point, maybe a year from now, being able to do your own thing, like being able to take your time to really build up your social presence, but also getting more deals and doing this more full time. So seems like your goals. What's your plan to get there? Or if you have any additional goals too, what would those be?
Yeah, I would like to maybe acquire two properties by the end of the year. If I can do two subject twos by the end of the year, and then stabilize those two, and then starting next year, I think next year we're getting into 3.0 at the Gator, and that is very, very interesting. Is into buying businesses and zero down businesses, which I can't wait to hear from Pay. So that's going to be another step into the, how do we find the money?
Mhm.
Which I think is
Yeah.
like, it's like fascinating, honestly. Like every time he says, like, you can't ask me anymore, where do you find the money? You have the money, you can find the money, you know where to
Yeah.
find the money. And we always think like, and even with the amount of times that I have heard him say that, I still feel like, oh, it's a mindset thing. It's totally a mindset thing.
Yes. Yeah.
You just have
For
to
sure.
change your mind and understand that, yeah, there's money everywhere. But
Yep.
like, oh, how do you ask for the money? Who do you ask for the money? Like, and in the end, it's a practice. Like he said,
Yeah.
just practice every day, talk to everybody, and just, if it's not right, doesn't matter. Just practicing. You're practicing constantly. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. These conversations help constantly as well, right? Like
Oh yeah.
you're refining the way you talk about these things by talking through it like this too. Awesome. No, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah,
That's great.
for sure. Yeah. What are your plans?
So the goal is to continue to build out the short term company, short term rental company, and ultimately we have a goal of this year to getting to 10,000 a month and in revenue, and uh, we're on track to getting there, and then next year we'll double that, and ultimately we're trying to get to a place where it's getting to $50,000 a month in gross revenue from short-term renting, and it's going to be probably when we get to about maybe 50 properties or so to get there, right? And we're at 6 right now, so we're really just if you think about per property getting about 1,000 or so in revenue a month, that's ultimately our goal for that company, and just to continue to build that arm up. And then on the investment side, um, really close on a first deal by the end of this year. And so on track to doing that. Just in the short term, I'm learning about the process and working with people, teaming up so that I can understand people that have done deals and know how to close deals and go through the A to Z. I'm learning from that, and it's been a good opportunity. So only a matter of time before getting my first deal.
Yeah, me too. Great.
Yeah, cool.
Can't wait.
Yeah, yeah. So all right. So just to wrap it up, like what value do you see yourself being able to bring to people, and then how can they get in contact with you?
I think I can definitely like help people with like managing properties with like I have the MLS, so I can be the unicorn agent. So definitely I can get you lists of the expired listings and that kind of thing. I can always help you with that. And I can help you with like maybe underwriting like deals, because I'm understanding of the financials, the financial part a little bit. So I can help with that. And yeah, I mean, and now I can help with Gator deals, like any private money lending or EMDs. I can help with that for sure. So yeah, and I'm again
Awesome.
learning too. So I learn as I go.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just keep going and I learn as I go.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And how can people get in contact with you?
Well, through Facebook, you can find me on Facebook as Melissa Bello, as it shows on my name. It's exactly the same name. And yeah, you can DM me. And yeah, I'm also on Instagram. I think it's also Melissa_Bello.
Cool.
How
All
can we
right.
find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at Bobby Souza on Instagram or Facebook, and then also the if so I we love working with investors from the short term side because they ultimately want to be passive, right? They want to buy these properties, they want to find a management company that they can trust, that they know is going to be able to maximize the revenue coming in. And so we're that company on the short term rental side, relaxed stays. So our handle there on Instagram, you can see some of the content that we've created is your relaxed stay, at your relaxed stay. So RELAXED. And feel free to reach out either to me personally or through that, and we'll be able to respond. So any short term rental needs, and then we do a ton of underwriting and building out performas on the short term side as well as midterm. So we help out realtors a lot with that, so they can help their sell properties to anybody that's interested in an Airbnb or short-term rental property. And but we can also help anybody that needs that help too. And we've done a ton of those, so we have it like down pat now on how we go about underwriting them. And yeah, that's
Now, I have a
yeah,
question for you before we go.
yeah.
Do you, on your management company, do you have accounting in house, or you use a different company for that?
Accounting, like in terms of how we do the book, like run the books for
Yeah.
the owners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do it in house.
Financials? Do you do full financials for individual homes? No.
No, 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 not to that extent. It's high level. It's more about so like we'll remit taxes on the behalf of the owners with power of attorney, and we collect all the payments from the the rental, the bookings themselves, and any other additional revenue that we get from that bookings, and then we disperse as needed. We make sure our cleaners are paid and all that stuff, and we provide reports to the owners, but we don't do the full on accounting for them on their behalf. But we manage a lot of the money as it relates to the bookings and any revenue we're gaining. I don't
Nice.
know if that answers your question, but or if you have a thought around that, is that
Yeah, no, I was thinking because I was also thinking of maybe buying an accounting company. I was talking to another girl in my group that she actually just bought one, and I was thinking either I was before that I was thinking of buying a management company. So now, if I can buy an accounting company and then just get a couple of buildings, then
oh
that's a management company right there.
yeah,
So
well let me know about that, because we definitely uh could always use some help with that. I think that's our next big thing, is how do we find something that can help us, even as a manager company, do better around all the properties that we manage. So I'm thinking more of the accounting on for our company themselves, not the owners. So I'd be interested to learn more about that if you go that route.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I'll let you know.
Cool.
I'm meeting
All
with
right.
her. I think it's on Monday or Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome. All right. Cool.
yeah.
All right. Well,
Well,
thank you.
good
Thanks.
talking to you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It was great. No, this is great.
Yeah.
This is good. So, all right. Well, I'm sure we'll have each other. We'll have another episode in the future, and we'll kind of talk about the progress that we've made. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
cool. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.